There may be nothing more tragic, especially for a parent, than the loss of a child. When Aaron Gray's 5-month-old son died in an unthinkable accident, it started a journey of pain that seemed insurmountable. But Aaron says there was a moment, years into his grief, when he began to release all the trauma that had built up. He likens it to a bird in full flight, suddenly hitting a window.
When the trauma occurs, all that gets locked into us. All these feelings and all that is locked inside of us. And if we don't learn how to release it, we will live with it until we do. When a bird hits the window and it hits the ground and you're like, oh my God, he's dead. And then it wakes up and it like shakes itself off like it's shaking off the fall. That's exactly what he's doing. He's shaking off that energy that was trapped inside of it because its body shut down so that it didn't experience the excruciating pain of dying. The body shut down. It found itself okay, so it brought back, kind of turned all the lights back on, and when it did, it shakes all that out, almost like a seizure, and the bird flies away.
Today, a difficult but necessary conversation about the very worst time in one man's life and how he's using what he learned to guide others. I'm Demetria Kalodimos. It's Banner and Company. We just passed the 13th anniversary of the loss of your son, August the 7th,
Yes.
2012?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you mark that day?
A lot of times it'll just go by, but I try to spend at least some time going through photos of Joel, just in remembrance. And don't over celebrate it or not. I try to, when he pops in my mind, I try to enjoy him in that time. I don't save it for just that date. So it's not a big celebration of life or anything like that. It's not just another day, obviously, but sometimes it will creep up on me. I learned early that focusing on upcoming dates is so much more punishment than just letting the date come and have your pain on that day. Every holiday it was really tough for a long time. And so, you're constantly anticipating pain if you're looking in the future. So I let days come to me. Sorry, I got a little choked up and I got to shake it. So I try to let days come to me, and I try to really focus on now as a whole in my life today. As much as one can heal from losing a child, I feel that I'm healed. I'm happier than I've ever been in my life. I'm healthier than I've ever been in my life. And so I try to live in the now, be very present, and appreciation, and gratitude, and experiencing for whoever I'm with, and the experiences that I'm having. So I try to stay now. And so inevitably that day will pop up on me, and it popped up in the middle of a vacation this past week. And but I do not spend very much time at all saddened and missing Joel real bad, and I don't spend time there. That's not a place I spend a lot of time there. So I feel like I did my tour of duty in that pain and suffering, and obviously I'll get choked up. I miss him, but I wouldn't be who I am without losing him. And I've learned so much about life and being a dad and a partner and a friend. So I'm very appreciative of what I've learned as a result of his death. Now, given a time machine, I turn it around. But
what was the Gray family like August the 6th, 2012, the day before?
Sure, it was wild. Joel was number 4, and we had meshed a family. She had brought one in, and I adopted him, Hiller, and Ellis was mine. And then we had Aaron Keith, and then Joel came along, and everything, we were bustling. It was the day that he passed was the first day of school, so it was kind of hectic with school coming up. We had our normal stuff. We had an insurance job going on in our kitchen, so our house was flipped upside down. So life was so, it was what I had been told all along was the plan. You get married and you have a house and you have a job and you go on vacations, everybody's got a car, and you have these kids. And we had way more kids than I thought I was going to have. But it was okay. It was full of love. We loved each other, and obviously ups and downs. So everything was really, I guess, on the up of what you think life is going to be. You're hitting your marks and hitting your targets and checking all the boxes. Everything was so normal. And that's what was so crazy about when it happened. I mean, everything's so normal, and then everything's so broken so fast. And it's an interesting experience, very, very interesting experience.
I'm sure you can recall every second of that day, or can you?
From the time, a lot of it, leading up to the time that I got the phone call, and I can't even give you the exact time. I was coming off the guys, and I worked downtown for Metro, and we would take a walk in the afternoons downtown. We were right by what was then the new bus station, and that's when my ex-wife called and started explaining what happened, and I knew he was dead as soon as she started saying. I mean, she's screaming. She's just learning how that he was in the backseat of the car all day. She went to the school to pick him up, and she hadn't dropped him off. And so it was like, that's what I mean. Everything was normal. We'll say at 2:30, and at 2:31, everything was in my life was completely broken. And that started. I can tell you pretty much everything from that moment forward. Getting the ride over to Donaldson, to the church daycare where he was, which it was full of every emergency vehicle and helicopters and all that. It was really wild. The police did a good job getting me kind of back out of the way to keep from having any news footage of me, or Stephanie. She was in the ambulance most of the time. But yeah, it was just so it take your breath away. And my trauma is so obvious, and one of the big things that I talk about now is I've got trauma from my childhood that's nowhere near as dramatic, but doing inner child work, I identify it, and even that was pretty obvious. I didn't have a dad in the home growing up, but trauma is subjective, and it's what our nervous system can and cannot take, and it's if we experience something that our nervous system cannot take, we experience trauma, and if we don't feel it, I don't know the best way to say it, but if we don't feel it, we don't experience it, we don't get it out, we don't fix it. And so many people don't have trauma as obvious as mine. And, when I tell my story and I think about it, it's just so jarring. But others need to know that you don't have to have gone through something so bad to have experienced the things that I like to talk about, how we can get better and overcome. So, talking about this, it is so heavy, but I want us to know that it doesn't have to be this heavy to experience the negative things that come along with the trauma.
Your mom is the person that told me about you and arranged this conversation in some ways. She's a minister? She
is. She's been retired for some time. She was a minister she had retired, but she was a minister at the church that had the daycare where Joel was when he passed away.
Did that faith connection do anything for you when you were deep in your crisis?
No, ma'am. And I would say, and I even hesitate to say it because I don't spend a ton of time, but I would say I'm spiritual now. I've been agnostic for some time. Leading up to his death, I was. Obviously, to my mother's dismay, she's very upset about. But
people are different.
Yeah, we're different. And so leading up to that, I was. And this solidified that for me, I guess, that, life is just life. We're here, we're to live it and experience it, and then we pass away. And there's no master plan and all puppet and all this. I know I feel differently now through my recovery here in the last 5 or 6 years, and he's been gone longer than that. But I was kind of in the cesspool of pain and suffering for about 7 years, and the big connection that I made, well, there's two of them. One was physical, working on my physical health, and two was spending time in nature. And that latter piece is the spirituality that I would tell you that I now have. There's something so healing being out in nature where we came from. We weren't made to be locked up inside of buildings all the time and never be outside and all that. Whoever created us, however we got here, made us with all these other things. And experiencing that has really drawn me to a more, I think, can only be defined as spiritual because it's not tangible or real. And so I've grown into a spiritual, not religious, but a spiritual connection with earth, I guess is, I don't know, that sounds really hippie, but a real spiritual connection with nature is where I am now. So there was no connection there for me to harvest. I did have, obviously, a lot of people talk about that, find God and all that. And even if that was a healing way, I'm kind of glad I went through the really hard process doing it on my own, because I feel very strong and that I can handle anything, because days were very dark, and I know I was able to put these days together to get to where I am today, and so I have a lot of confidence in myself now.
Yeah. As the husband and father, was everyone looking to you to be the example of strength and recovery?
Well, they were looking to me to see that everything was okay, and I don't know that I did a great job, especially in the aftermath, to show that everything was okay, because I didn't know it was going to be okay. And in hindsight, hindsight's 2020. Obviously, I don't even know that it's 2020 in this scenario, but I'm glad that things have played out the way that they did, and everybody's still with us, and the kids are all good now, and I say all good. I don't know that that's the case. The children are all doing well, and I think that's the best we can ask for in such a traumatic scenario. It was very dark and very grim, and we did make it through. We all made it through healthy and okay, and I don't overstate that. I mean, that's not something, in such a bad situation, bad things continue to happen. And so making it out of it, I feel like we did okay. And I definitely stumbled, and I wish I could have done things better. But I was so blinded by pain that I did things I definitely wouldn't do today, and I probably wouldn't have done before it happened. I did things that were very out of character for me.
You think that's typical, though, as you share with other people that have gone through this intense grief?
Sure, and I think the scientific part that goes with it, and again, this happens to people who don't have such obvious trauma, but we get into the amygdala, the reptilian brain, whatever you want to call it. It's the fight, flight, freeze, and we cannot reason when we are in that part of our brain. And when something happens to us that we cannot handle, that's where we go. And if we don't get out of it, we can't reason and make good decisions. So yes, to your question, I think a lot of people make very bad decisions after trauma because they are in a place of not being able to reason. And it's interesting looking back on that time, because it's hard to even put myself in that place anymore because it was so broke. But I was broken. So yes, I think that I made a bunch of poor, when I say poor decisions, I mean I wouldn't normally have done. Right. Is what I mean. I don't think I did anything. I wasn't breaking the law, things like this, but I would have made better decisions, I think, if I was allowed to reason more.
I don't recall, in all the years that I covered news, and unfortunately these things would happen from time to time, I don't recall anyone ever talking about it again. Any of the participants, any of the family involved ever really coming forward. They might have a representative or an attorney or someone, but it would happen, it would be ghastly, and it would fade into memory.
Mm-hmm. We did a I think it was a 4-part series with Erica Curry when she was over at Fox.
Oh, okay.
Just right out of it. I knew I wanted to help right out of it. I was a mess, and I wasn't where I needed to be to do any good, but I knew I wanted to help because it could give his life meaning. And since his death, the federal government passed some legislation that put some stuff in the cars. So if a certain temperature is reached, in I think it's 73 or 75 is the magic number, which is not that hot. But the car, when you turn it off, will say, look before you lock his baby in the back. Like those are on the cars now. I hadn't even really heard of it happening when it happened to Joel. People going to the bar or going shopping or just being negligent, yes, I'd heard of, but not just you thought you did something you didn't do. And it was an accident. I know it was an accident. I don't blame my ex-wife, but I just hadn't heard of it. So I wanted to be a voice, and I'll get choked up telling you this. Monday Night Football 2 years ago, I think it was, 2 seasons ago. It ended up being a great game. But anyway, I'm there with one of my best friends from high school, and his now daughter-in-law, 21-ish. We're talking about the story, and I tell her about putting, and I'm sure you don't remember this, but they said don't come up with a solution that needs technology because then you become dependent. And so we came up with putting, because so many times it's females taking kids around, take your shoe off and put it with the baby because you're not going to get off and leave. And so she said, oh, there's this cool thing going around TikTok right now with young moms where they put the shoe with the baby. It was like 10 years. So lives have been saved as a result. So it was pretty cool to have that happen. So that was pretty awesome.
It's Banner and Company. I'm Demetria Kalodimos. We'll be right back.
This episode is brought to you by Marshalls, where you never have to compromise between quality and price. The buyers at Marshalls hustle hard, working to bring you great deals on brand name and designer pieces. Because Marshalls believes everyone deserves access to the good stuff. Visit a Marshalls store near you or shop online at marshalls.com.
How did your friends and neighbors react? And did any of them do well for you? Or were they just trying to avoid you? I think a lot of times when people hear someone else's story and it's so heavy and they want to help, but they are very reticent to even get involved. Is that a good idea?
Great question. And something I think early on I was able to tell others. The first thing, the response is there was some of both. And I believe that we had a tremendous amount of love surrounding us, which was huge in just making it through. I think love is at our very core as human beings is needed, and giving and receiving it is the best thing ever. So love is definitely what got us through, and it is. I try to keep that as my North Star. As someone who went through something like that, it is so great to just have a human being there just to say, hey, I'm here. And I understand that it's hard and it sucks to be the friend of somebody who something like this happens to. And I guess that's kind of the responsibility of being a friend. And relationships aren't always awesome. Sometimes they have some downs. And I am very fortunate to have the friends that I have. And I've got some really, really good friends. I've got probably, I think it's 5 that are from high school times. And I've been out of high school some time now. And to have really good friends, it takes hard work sometimes, but that hard work what I would say is somebody, whether it's a divorce or something as extreme as losing a child or whatever it could be, just to let them know you've lost a parent, you're there and you care about them. And if you need to, get selfish about it. What would you want them to do if you were in their position? Because I know that that's how you create such long, strong bonds when you're there with somebody in a moment like that. They're never going to forget it. And when you're there, they will be there if they can. And it is an investment in future if you want to take a selfish, which we all need to be selfish. We're here for our lives. But it is welcome. Now, something that I did hear that was hard to hear in the moment, but 13 years down the road, I'm appreciative of these words, and that is, it wasn't always said like this, but the point was, how long are you going to lay there? And it takes a lot of internal fortitude to ask somebody that question, especially if you haven't been through something as quote-unquote bad. And as the traumatized, that's how I saw it, and I would respond with such, I would call it arrogance now, or defiance, and it was, I guess, the victim mentality in me wanting to stay on the ground. And I would say, oh, is that what you ask yourself when you lost a child, knowing they hadn't lost a child? But that's ignorant. They were able to reason. They were able to look at the scenario and say, hey, man, you need to get up on your feet. And it was finally somebody who did it. It was an individual where he was a contractor I was working with. And he was painting the bathroom. I've told this story before. He was painting the bathroom, and I was just sitting there. And he really went in depth about how long you're going to, quote unquote, you're just going to lay there, or you're going to get up. And it even took some time after that, but I did begin to take the steps necessary to get to where I am today. And it's taken a long time to get to where I am today, and a lot of hard work. I've done a lot of different therapies.
What would you not do again? What was a complete waste of time? If any.
Sure, and I'm sorry, that's a good question, so you'll have to edit this part. Okay, so what would I not do would be to try and manipulate the stages of grief. And what I mean by that is my ex-wife it was an accident, and I don't want there to be any question about how I feel about that. It was an accident. But as the responsible party, however you want to say it, she had a lot on her shoulders. And the anger phase of grief is very real. And we don't all grieve the same. We don't all grieve in the same order. It's not all even guaranteed that we're going to go through all the stages of grief. I'm referring to Kubler-Ross's stages of grief. That's not all guaranteed, but a lot of us do it, and a lot of us go through all of them. And I am guilty of trying to manipulate that one stage for me and my children. And I think as a result, my ex-wife really couldn't go through it either, because for her to show any anger towards us would obviously seem inappropriate to all of us. I didn't want any anger expressed towards her. When I made a commitment to stay with her, I wasn't going to express anything like that. This was not going to be a weapon in the future, et cetera. So I shouldn't have done that. I should have let nature do its thing, because we can all get stuck in different stages of grief. And when I actively did that, and I should not have, I should have just let it roll. And what came out in the wash came out in the wash. As a result, I think it changed the trajectory of how things ended up going, and B, we all went through it at the same time when my ex-wife and I split up, and it was a disgusting, toxic scenario because of that. And so as a result, when you ask that question, because I did a ton of therapies and work inside and outside of lines that society normally has, you do this, this, and this. Sometimes I would go outside just trying to find anything. And all of those, I think there's a positive that came from them. And so then in reflection, I would say that's the best way I can answer that.
And you had other little kids at the time. What were the age ranges at the time?
Sure. So we had, it was 11, 9, 6, and then Joel. And then, so he died August 7th, and Francis was born December 4th of 2013. And so...
oh my gosh, having a new baby.
Yeah, it was an interesting time. And, of course, those are decisions that people question, and family and friends alike. And, they are what they are. Those decisions were made. We followed through. We have a beautiful daughter. She's amazing. And so you obviously don't want to go. You don't go back on those decisions. You don't think twice about them. But yes, it was a wild time. And having a daughter comes with after that scenario, after that situation occurred. There's a lot of judgment that comes with that. So it was. In my misery and pain, all the bad stuff that goes with it, one of the good things that came with it was my, I don't even know how to say it without cussing, not caring about what others think. That meter was very high. I didn't care. I didn't care what you thought. I didn't care what you said. If you came after me with something, I I may come back with venom. Today, I look at it all very, very differently. I'm very appreciative of what had happened. And
Was there the sky is bluer moment for you when you really can recognize that things were better?
yes.
And can a person really recognize that in the moment?
I think I faded. I can tell you today where I feel like I took some really giant leaps.
Sure.
But I believe that, to my previous point, everything led up to that.
Right. It's a process.
It is a
completely.
process. And I do think that one day the light bulb did come on, and I was like, man, sunrises are beautiful, and the sunsets are even just as amazing. That time did occur for me. But there was a lot of work that led up to it, and I try to I've tried to learn, and so that I can kind of pass this information on to those who are going through these things. Try to benchmark. Try to give yourself the little wins that occur in where you are. I don't want, I do have, so my moments were, when I was getting out every morning, walking over in Donaldson, and when you're coming down towards the water plant, it's Fernbrook Lane. It goes down to the water plant and the NISA soccer, and the sun rises right there behind the river and all that. So every morning I was walking down, as the sun came up, it was right in my face, and it was amazing. And I began to feel how amazing just life is. And I never even looked at life like that. I would have called myself hokey in the past. But because of all of the darkness and quote unquote rainy days, to be able to smile and have that feeling, soon after he died, I don't ever think I'm going to laugh again. I don't think I'm going to smile. I'm not going to laugh. I'm not going to enjoy anything. How can you enjoy anything when your child has passed away? And that's what you're telling yourself. And so I talk to people who are early in the trauma. Look, taking a shower is a victory a lot of times. If you can get outside and walk around a little bit and then clean yourself up, that is a victory, and you need to celebrate it. Today, my victories are much larger. But, the light really came on, and I don't, there was so much that built up to it that it probably came into focus, but there was so much occurring at that actual time that I do have an aha moment. But I think that it's a slow burn. I think it's just like anything in life. It takes a lot of discipline and hard work and learning and staying focused on you and your happiness, loving the human being in the mirror. As men in our society, we're kind of taught that you just grit your teeth and bear whatever comes at you, and that's just not the way we're supposed to do it. And that's the message I'm trying to get out. And again, I feel like I've got some skin on the wall. I've been through something really tough. So I've never been to war. I don't know what that's like. I've never lost a parent. There's a lot of times I've never been in a really tragic car accident where I lost a limb or had cancer. I've never had any of those things. But I have had something that's really hard, and I've been able to progress and come to a happy spot in life. And so that's what I'm trying to show others, that A, it's possible, and B, it takes work. You're not just going to stuff it down and it not fester and become something even worse. We have to deal with it. And for men, a lot of times it takes the loved ones in their life. I wish they could love the person in the mirror, but it takes the loved ones in their life to see if they see their child struggling and they're like, wow, I need to help my child. And then that means they've got to get better so that their child will get better. They'll do it then.
It's Banner and Company, and my guest is Aaron Gray, who lost his young son 13 years ago. We'll be right back. So, guys dealing with feelings. Whose idea was it, and what are you doing with it now?
So it was my idea. I'm trying to find a way to connect with men, and this is something that's free for the men, not me, but it's free for them, and it's something you can't sell. This is not something you can sell. So I looked into coaching others, and trying to help with that. And maybe eventually there can be a retreat center where we can have stages that we can get people through, but that's a lot. And I'm still parenting and grinding myself. So right now, this is a way that I believe I can record all that I've learned very close in proximity to a lot of that I've learned, and share it with others en masse if they want to consume it. And I focus on men because I'm a man, and I think it's very crucial that men have an outlet, because it's not fiscally rewarding to focus on men in the mental health space. Because they're not going to buy it.
They're not going to buy it.
No. Why would you focus on a target audience that's not going to purchase? They need it, would be your response, but the electric company is going to get their money, and so you have to pay your bills. So you target the people who are going to come, and that's almost always been females. Obviously, it's been growing. This is an area that's growing, and mental health in general. Even from the time Joel died, has changed so drastically. And the way I was talking to our 19-year-old is, she's graduated college now and she's getting her PhD, super proud of her. And I'm talking to her and I'm like, look, we know a lot. We know a lot more than our ancestors knew, but we don't know anything. And so much of what we're doing with mental and even physical health is throwing spaghetti at the wall. We've just got to look at all the spaghetti. We get pigeonholed into these certain just areas, and that, talk therapy was great for me, but it was not going to get me to where I am today. The biggest, bar none, was to begin, and you can see that I've got some ways to go on my physical health, but I'm so much in a better place than I ever was before. I quit drinking when Joel passed away. And I drank too much before that. Leading up to that, I drank too much. So I quit soon after he passed away, and that was huge. And then I've had these little momentous. But when I started exercising regularly, so I open every day with about a 3-mile walk with the dogs. It's not strenuous. That was massive. Just that little piece was massive. Then the food that I take in, so I try to watch the ultra-processed stuff, try to eat more vegetables, drink more water. I'm not perfect at it, but just the changes that I was from where I was to where I got to was so massive, and the physical part changed the mental part.
It sounds like it's the deliberate stuff that you can make the choice yourself to do.
That's right.
That seems more rewarding when you see results, right?
100% accurate, and that's why I am trying, again, another reason for the podcast, I'm trying to get that out there, that it's called holistic wellness, and it's just the whole body. It's not just focusing on, again, where you sit down and talk about what bad things have happened in your life and why you're sad. It's taking care of yourself. And in taking care of yourself, A, learning to take care of yourself, but B, showing the love and care to self is in itself rewarding and healing. And then we begin to, and I am, if anything, humility is something that losing Joel taught me a lot about. I don't care what kind of high horse you may find yourself on, whether you deserve to be on it or not, it will knock you off of that horse. And so humility is definitely something I've learned. I've learned to be grateful for everything around me, but it sounds, I may sound cocky saying it, but you have to love yourself. You have to show selfishness, because we need to heal self first, and then we can be best for others. So that's why I say what I say.
What do you call yourself? Are you a counselor? Are you a motivator? What are you?
I would say motivator. I'm not a counselor, and I don't want desire to work with people one-on-one. I don't want to take on other people's energy. I would like to help. I would like to be a guiding light to them. So podcaster would be another thing. And again, it's out there for people to consume if they want to consume it. We tried. I've my partner on it. I went to high school with. His name's Jason Adams, and he's got 18 years as a therapist, and with a lot of trauma training. And so he is able to bring all of the book stuff with him, and I can bring the real life stuff with me, and we together, sometimes it may sound like I'm in a therapy session with him, which again, I'm trying to normalize men discussing emotions. And it's not just me that's not natural for, it's a lot of men. And it needs to be more natural. If you can't identify an emotion, and a lot of us think we can, and we're so far away from target, it's not even funny. So if you can't even identify your emotions, there's no way you can set goals and then try to attack them, because you don't even know what makes you happy. And we fail to realize that. I didn't know what made me happy before Joel died, and that's crazy. I mean, I loved my kids, and I loved being out in nature. I loved going camping. Okay, I did love those things, and I still love those things today. But I have a totally different appreciation for all of that. And I try not to have a lot of regrets, but some of the regrets I have are I really wish I could have just stopped and enjoyed the moments with my children, because now they're grown for the most part. Francis
well, there are
is still
new
young.
moments.
And there will be new moments, and I will cherish every one of those. And so I'm living life today to make sure there's no more regrets. And I don't sit around crying about it, but I do look and I go, dang, man, I could. When we're grinding out the Little League years, you don't want to see a Little League field. You just don't. And I now pass Little League fields and say, I wouldn't mind sitting there watching the kids again.
Banner & Company is a production of the New Nashville Banner. This episode was produced by Shauna Reynolds, with assistance from Steve Harouche. Edited and mixed by me. The original music is by Verlin Thompson. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts or go to NashvilleBanner.com. You're in good company. Our final question is in the fishbowl.
Okay.
You never know what you're going to get.
Oh, yeah?
It's a little Forrest Gump thing we do here.
Okay. All right, from Ron Bryce. What's your
favorite show you've seen at 3rd and Lindsley? How's that?
God, this is not good for me.
You don't get out much, do you?
I don't go down to 3rd and Lindsley. I know where it is. I know it's a concert venue. I think I've gone in there and had lunch before. But I've literally never heard anybody at 3rd and Lindsley.
Maybe now's the time.
I don't get around crowds very often. I've been to my fair share of Willie Nelson concerts. When I was in college, I probably did 8 or 9 different Willie Nelson concerts around the South. Football's probably bigger on my list than music, but music is very healing. I think there's a lot of healing that goes with music.